In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. Humankind has been walking in darkness with anxiety and fear for thousands of years, battling itself and everything around it. This fear has been the catalysis of everything that ails our society to this day. What if instead, in the dark uncertain times of our lives, we could see opportunity and growth and inspire awe and creativity? Let's talk about how to break free from fear into the freedom of creation, so life challenges reawaken thrill and a sense of adventure within us for many years to come. Today on the episode, I have a very special guest, a spiritual guide, a visionary, and a healer who helps individuals in their path of remembrance. Marc Bresnahan's story is one of overcoming adversity and transforming his life through dedication to the divine source and helping others. For the past decade, Marc has been deeply involved with master plan teachers and has facilitated countless sacred journeys and somatic breathwork ceremonies that aid in emotional release and healing. Now living in the sacred valley of Peru, Marc embodies a life of joy, service, and spiritual growth. Join us as we explore Marc's profound insight and life-changing practices, guiding us on a journey back to the heart and empowering us to live fearlessly and authentically. Let's begin. All right. Hi, Marc.
Hi.
Good having you here today. So we're here to talk about fear and how to break from fear into freedom. I think that to talk about fear, we first need to talk about courage, right? So the definition of courage is that courage is the ability to confront fear, pain, danger, uncertainty, or intimidation despite feeling apprehensive or vulnerable. It involves taking action in the face of adversity and standing up for what is right, even when it is difficult or risky. Courage can manifest in various forms, including physical bravery, moral strength, and emotional resilience. It often involves perseverance, integrity, and the willingness to sacrifice personal comfort or safety for a greater good. So, with that being said, let's dive into today's subject and let's hear a little bit from you. Why is it your mission to help people out of fear?
Thank you. Thank you, Carolina. Thanks for that introduction. I would love for you to narrate my life. You've been beautiful, especially when you were reading that definition. It was so good. So yeah, my name is Marc Bresnahan, and I guess I'm the guy that you found to talk about fear, huh? Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you know, whether I enjoy it or not, and I do enjoy it. I enjoy working with fear, but it's been a huge part of my journey, my life, and it still is, and I think it always will be. Fear to me is just an emotion, like joy, like laughter, like crying, like love, something that is part of the human experience. Yeah. You know, something that will always be with me, no matter how many times I change my definition of what it is. And that definition has surely changed a lot over my life. For a long time, I realized, or I didn't think I had any fear, actually. Growing up, I was always in sports in the United States and really pushed by a lot of people to have no fear, right? To
take risks.
To take risks, to almost to like just the thought of even having fear was like a bad thing. Like pushed to have no fear so much, to not be a coward, to not to always achieve, to always go. You know, for me as a man, as a boy growing into a man in Texas, playing Texas high school football, playing sports my whole life, growing up in that atmosphere. It was very much, that was what we were taught to be like. That was what we were taught a man was. A real man, a strong man with courage was someone who had no fear.
Yeah.
So I really bought into that. And maybe I learned during those years to have no fear in the physical world in a lot of ways. Like, yes, push myself hard, achieve, not be afraid of pain. You know, pain is weakness leaving the body, we would say. But what I understood was I really started to develop a fear of fear itself.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can relate, but please expand.
Okay, yeah. So, and that took a long time to figure out. I'm just now figuring that out at this time of my life, or over the past years of my waking up and on my path and on my spiritual path, you know, and looking at my shadow. And we can get into that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, at this time, you know, it was, I had a fear of fear itself, and it showed up in, like having a fear of failure, having a fear of, especially failure was big for me, because anytime I failed, it was like, failure brings up a lot of fear of not being good enough.
Yeah.
In a lot of people. Or almost failure meaning death in a lot of ways.
Yes.
I think people put those two together. And in some ways it is a little bit of a small death, but it's not the death, obviously. Like you can get up and keep going and trying again. But
yeah.
I was so afraid of failure and of fear itself that I started to avoid it at all costs, both, you know. And I remember one time I failed so much in a game growing up in sports and in football or I felt like I failed. I really just made this little mistake in this game that was really important for our team, but it felt like a huge failure for me. Like I let down my team, and it was kind of the end of my career in sports growing up. And I remember going to the sidelines, and all my coaches, they couldn't even look at me. They couldn't even look at me in the face. Or, you know, all these people I looked up to, all these people that were teaching us what a man was, right? And like to have no fear and to go achieve. And it was all like love and yes and camaraderie when you were doing well. But even them, they couldn't face fear themselves, because that's what they preached. They couldn't face failure. Because failure, when you fail, it's unknown. You know, we don't know what's going to happen next. And fear is the unknown, really.
Yeah, the uncertainty.
The uncertainty, that's all that fear is. So they couldn't even look at me, and I felt totally alone in that space. And I didn't know how to self-regulate myself emotionally or with my my nervous system. I didn't know what to do, because I was running, you know, not running from fear so much. I was afraid of fear itself, that when I finally felt it, I was like, what is this? Like, this is, I don't know what
unusual.
to do. I don't know what to do, you know? Yeah. Is this like the end of my life? So I treated it like that. It was the end of that life, you know? I had scholarships to run track at West Point and all these very good, nice schools in the United States, and I just totally went the other direction after that, into alcohol, partying, drug use, eventually harder drugs, and just totally threw my energy into that world. Because in that world, I realized, when I'm using these substances, it numbs me. It numbs me from the fear, from negative emotions, from these hard emotions I feel when I fail, right? I'm always feeling good. I'm always succeeding, which is what I was taught. I was taught to always succeed.
Yeah.
So when I was feeling that way, I never had to feel feelings. So I guess I was also had fear of just emotions in general.
What are feelings? Welcome to the real world.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like, and I think we all have a little fear of our feelings to some extent. Yeah. And as I see now in my breathwork work. But anyways, it set me down a long path of avoiding fear and basically not living at all, just kind of existing in a state of limbo.
You said I was maintaining, not living, one of your posts.
Yes. And, well, especially then, I wasn't even maintaining. I was dying. I was dying, and eventually get to the point where I was literally dying quickly. Because that's a dead-end road, and you have to just keep doing more and more and more to achieve the feeling that I was looking for. And that's a whole, I can go deep into that, but we don't have to right now. But anyways, when I started to come out of that stage of my life of drug and alcohol abuse, I had even more fear because all the time I lived covering up the fear was just compounding. I wasn't releasing it. I wasn't feeling it. And to release fear, to work with fear, you have to feel it and face it and let it run through you, let it go. And
precisely.
And that's how you learn the lesson of that fear is trying to show you.
This is a process that is scary to look into your fear. But I feel like we're put in such an impossible position in the 21st century. From one end, we're being programmed into being strong and resilient and not to show fear. Basically, your experience growing up, yes, especially towards young males. Don't cry, don't show any weakness. On the other hand, there's the real life that we need to deal with. And how do you regulate such a natural emotion as fear? Like, how do you face it? How do you find yourself within it? How can you work with it? And it's something that we're not being taught because society is so disappointed by us being weak, by us being not sufficient. I feel like this is where this feeling of unworthiness comes from, because we're not attuned to our feelings. We don't know how to deal with them when they rise up within us. For me, it was important to understand fear, the mechanism behind it, because, well, I grew up in a country that basically perpetuates fear, that kind of drugs its own society by the feeling of fear. It's created through propaganda, through the media, through the constant state of war. I come from the Middle East. I grew up in Israel. I've seen what's being done to people to set them against each other and what it does on an individual level. I feel like I've lived most of my life in fear because the system around me always, constantly told me to fear my neighbor, to fear the war that is about to break, fear everything and everyone. And adding on top of that, growing with an abusive parent, I felt like I couldn't express anything. I had to play a role, kind of put a fake mask on myself, like everything is okay, like I can deal with everything and all the life circumstances I had. But underneath that, there was boiling a deep depression and complete misunderstanding of life, because we can't express ourselves without having a backlash from society around us. And then we're left alone inside of this pit where you need to learn to deal with your emotions and learn to understand the world and yourself within it. So I've kind of set myself on a mission to understand fear and the role it plays on this planet, because we are controlled by fear. We are a society that is led by fear. Mm-hmm. It proved itself in the last few years, especially when the world, went crazy. over COVID. But, I'm just going to share a little story, a little anecdote from the beginning of my thesis. So I was tripping on some mushrooms, and and I was speaking to the spirit, and I was like, hey, I'm at this point in my life where I need to make some serious choices, to look some deeply imbued fear inside of me in the eye. And I just want to understand this mechanism. I want to understand the origin of fear. And it took me back to a scene. I don't know if it's real or not. I don't know if it's just my brain interpreting the meaning of fear. But what happened is that I was brought into the times of Cain and Abel. And there was a moment of two brothers standing in a field, and both of them were scared. And there was a moment where the choice had to be made, of how to act on that fear. And what happened is that one brother killed the other. The earth, absorbed the blood for the first time. But what I understood from that moment is that ground you stand when you have the choice if to live by the illusion of uncertainty of what is going to happen unless I act upon that fear, and the fear of uncertainty itself. I hope I'm being clear. It's hard for me to explain what I saw there, but that was a moment where the humankind had a choice whether to act on fear or to walk away from it, and to see through it, to see the opportunity through it. And
there's two energies
yeah,
to choose from every time, I
precisely
think. Either fear or love.
Yeah. And I feel that it kind of taught me how to look at fear and see the healthy and unhealthy sides of it. And I want your take on it because, there's caution and clarity and understanding and calculation of risk, but there's also living a life based on fear, which is the unhealthy part of it. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for your story. It's awesome. I want a mushroom trip like that. I've had some.
Could be arranged.
Definitely had some, but never gone back into the Bible before.
Crazy times.
Yeah, so healthy fear versus unhealthy fear.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just go back to an example of my life with that. I truly believe that we don't know what is healthy fear or unhealthy fear if we can't even look at fear to begin with. The first step is to be able to face it.
Be aware.
To be aware and to feel it. And I think by feeling it and sitting with the fear, we can apply our logic, and we can learn, we can really feel it and see, hey, is this something that's going to kill me?
Yeah. Precisely.
Or is this something that is maybe going to kill my sense of identity or my ego? Maybe that's why I'm afraid. And there's a big difference between those two, right? And fear is just basically the unknown, and that's it. And there's not many, we already do so many things in our lives all the time that maybe we should actually be more afraid of versus the irrational fear that we feed into. Like driving. There's so much of a chance of dying every day driving than probably a lot of the things that we're actually afraid of, like public speaking or something like that. Which one is more of a risk of actual danger, right? So I think for me, I've discovered once I've started to face my fear and to actually sit with it and to understand it which I had to do by going towards it, then it actually started regulating itself back into a natural, healthy response. Now I can trust my fear because I actually have more fear about things I should be fearful about, rather than things that are fine, that are just maybe my mind doesn't like because everyone else told me I should be scared of it, or they exude fear. I've learned fear, not actual instinctual fear, right? So, but again, at the same time, I've also understood I'm always going to have fear. And fear can be a great ally, a great friend.
Love it that you said it. Continue.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Like, I really believe every single emotion we have, every feeling, it's a gift.
It's there for a reason.
It's there for a reason. It's a blessing if we can see it like that. It can also be a curse, like any gift can be. But if we see it as one, I mean, it's a guide. It can really show us, if we follow our fear, it can show us where our growth is, where our unconsciousness is, what we're not shining our light on, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, what we aren't willing to face, we're actually acting out unconsciously.
Precisely. And attract into our lives.
And attracting
constantly until we learn the lesson.
Until we face it.
Yeah.
And fear, I mean, no one, I guess people have died of heart attacks from fear or something like that.
Oh, for sure.
But that's not facing the fear, you know? But fear can't hurt you. It'll feel scary.
Yeah.
But it's also, another word for fear, you can also call it just being thrilled. You know?
That's like, interesting.
It's thrilling, because it is. It's a thrill. It's like, whoo! Yeah. It raises your energy.
It's the rush of, what's going to happen? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And some even call that freedom when you're facing your fear, when you're living in that state of thrilledness, not knowing what's going to happen. That's freedom, because then you have unlimited choice. There's nothing.
Which is how we used to live, right? In the cave era, not knowing what tiger is going to eat us today, basically. Yeah. I love what you said about turning our fear from foe to an ally, you know, from the enemy it is, and we see in it, into something that could actually work with us and walk alongside us and kind of guide us through life, right? So I like looking at fear nowadays as an opportunity, as a door into new opportunity, because fear is an illusion. It's everything we can't see and calculate. It's the uncertainty and the myth that we put into that uncertainty. And that myth includes all the failure in the world. It includes all the bad stuff that could happen. It's basically us walking through the darkness of the uncertainty. But what if we could look at fear, realize it's only an illusion of the mind because we can't see what's beyond it, and just turn the light on for ourselves and understand that it's something we could walk through. It's something that could be thrilling. It could be an adventure. You know, it's something interesting. It's something that could help us come alive again. You know, it's new opportunity. And I feel that in nowadays world, we're so comfortable. You know, we know how the day is gonna look. We have our schedules, you know. We know how we're supposed to feel daily, but then when something disruptive comes into our system or into our lives, we're losing it. You know, there's so much anxiety in today's life. So nowadays, learning to look at my fear and have an honest conversation with it instead of running away from it, which is what I've been doing most of my life, basically, I learned how to speak to it like to a friend and hear what it has to say, hear the lesson in that feeling, and it all starts with realizing that it's a normal feeling, like you said, it's a friend. It's
okay.
It's okay. It's there
okay
playing
to be
a part.
It's totally
Precisely.
fine to be scared. We should be. It'd be weird if we weren't. Probably wouldn't be human.
Yeah.
It's okay to be afraid.
Precisely. So fear is a door into new opportunity. I feel that throughout my processes, and I facilitate breathwork as well. I do shamanic breathwork. So I resonate with everything you do. We're going to talk some more about it, but I feel that through all the modalities I brought into my life, I was able to transform fear into something that works for me. And it all starts with the awareness, of the willingness to look into it. And that is why we're having the conversation today. Like, what brings us to the moment where we stop and we no longer accept to live a life of quiet desperation, because so many people are living in this constant state of being afraid of failure and being afraid of death. But most of us actually are afraid of living. This is it. We're afraid of fully living, fully experiencing life around us, because there's death all around. There's failure all around. But if you really look at it, it's a fear of life and success, maybe, which is also something to look at. But what I'm trying to say is that I want, through my own mission, through what I do with people, to bring them to the moment where they equipped with everything they need to look at fear. To look at fear and say, okay, I see you, I accept you, I honor you for what you are. Show me what you need from me. Show me what you're here to tell, what you're here to make me learn. It's a conversation that demands some courage. Can you tell me about the moment you decided to no longer battle fear, live against it?
Yeah. Of course, I would love to.
Go for it.
Well, I have been very grateful for my path. And I'm very lucky because I really feel like I was forced to make a decision between life and death to face my fear. And I don't know if I ever would have if that never happened for me. With my running from fear and masking and numbing my life, or during that time, I was masking and numbing and doing all that with drugs and alcohol. But I was really numbing any feelings of anxiety, of not being okay with the way I was living, right? Of living in that quiet desperation, like you were saying. I was working in the United States, working my 9 to 5, and had my little schedule. It was, I was a healthy guy other than drugs and alcohol abuse, but I was working out all the time and had my little community of a social life that made me feel like I had connection, but it wasn't true connection. I had the life that the society had told me I wanted growing up. Right? And so I had achieved that, but to maintain that and to be okay with it, I had to numb myself with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And even not to the extent I was, but for most people, I think alcohol especially is so put on a pedestal in the Western world as a thing that is okay to do on the weekends or all the time. And
it's cool, man. It's cool.
Yeah, or like just a good hobby, right? Like a good
Yeah.
pastime.
What you doing this weekend? I'm drinking.
And I lived that life. And of course, I'm not saying alcohol is unhealthy or bad. It's just a thing. It actually can be used as a medicine in a lot of ways. And a lot of people can use it in beautiful ways, you know, but for me, I think the way society pushes it is not in a very healthy way. And I definitely was not using it
Yeah.
in a healthy way.
It was part of the escape.
It was part of the escape.
Yeah.
And when I ran that to the last leg, when it got so bad enough, I was literally afraid for my life. I wanted to stop. And every time I stopped, I could only stop using drugs and alcohol for a couple of weeks. And then all the emotions of my life and the fear of having to look at my life, because for me, I've always been someone that I have to see the truth. I have to know the truth. And so when I was sober enough to come back to that state, I had to see the truth of my life, that I wasn't happy. I was just
It all
okay.
came knocking on the door.
Yeah. I was just okay. I was just content. Like,
Yeah.
But I had all these anxieties, and I was on antidepressants, but why? Where were these anxieties coming from?
Yeah.
You know, and at the time, I didn't know. I thought I just had something wrong with me. Why am I not like everyone else? Why can I not live this life and be at least what everyone looks like on the outside, be happy?
Wearing fake masks, you mean?
Yeah. A lot of people, yes. And of course, everyone is different. And I do believe there are some people that really are happy with their lives living that way. But it wasn't me. I could never truly find my peace in that.
Yeah.
And of course, I thought something was wrong with me. But so for me, it got so I could only do a few weeks, and then I'd have to go back on the drugs and alcohol to like find my only sense of peace.
Yeah.
I didn't know what else to do. You know, I was never taught or learned a different way.
So back to basically playing small. Like you said, there was a thing you wrote in one of your posts, fear causes us to play small in the game of life. So it basically brought you back to that state of not living to your full potential.
Yes.
Yeah.
And exactly. And I didn't know what else to do because society was telling me I was living to my full potential. So there was that cognitive dissonance of what's wrong? I'm wrong. I need to fix my brain. I need to just fall into line and be okay. Right? But anyway, but the drugs and alcohol weren't working. I was dying. So it got to the point where I just literally had a breakdown. And I just broke down and was like, well, I'm not going to live much longer this way. But I also can't live without this. I don't know how to live. So like I literally have no choice. I don't know what to do.
That's a scary realization. I don't know how to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to live without dying. So I didn't know how to be okay.
Yeah.
I didn't. And once I finally just accepted that instead of fighting that, you know, it's just accepting our realities, and then everything can start working, like start falling into place after that. But first, it's just accepting.
Yeah.
Accepting that not everything was okay at all. And once I broke down into that and cried and just really asked for something out there, like, just please help me, you know, like, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. And then I started receiving help, you know. But at the same time, I was forced to start facing those fears of, okay, why can't I live regularly? Let me look at that first.
Yeah.
And then once I looked at that, I could look at the fear of, once I started looking at my fears, it started getting easier and easier. And then I started never settling. Once I started looking at that fear, then I was like, well, do I even want to live regularly? Why do I have anxiety why I don't feel okay living regularly.
Yeah.
So let me look at my fear of what is keeping me from
Living like you wanna.
living like I want. And then when I looked at that, then I could move on to the next and move on to the next and make little steps just
Basically,
like that.
step by step, building the life that you want to be living. Yeah.
Yes, but it's facing one fear at a time.
Yeah. This is the opportunity beyond the fear. I feel like once you start walking towards how you want to be living, and you no longer battle the fear, there's so many things. I don't know if it's the universe, I don't know if it's God or whatever it is that approaches us on the other end, and comes towards us, telling us it's okay, keep walking. I know you're blind right now, but I've got you. This is the leap of faith. This is
the leap of faith, yeah.
Absolute trust. And I feel that I could talk about this some more, but just to expand a little bit about what I'm saying, this is the trust they're talking about. All the great philosophers trust the path and everything. This is the unconditional love that we could have towards the universe, the all-given universe, the knowing that it's going to catch us in the darkness. It's not going to let us fall.
It'll catch us in a bed of flowers every time.
Precisely.
You have to fall, and the fall is scary.
Yeah.
Falling it's a
or
leap
it could
of
be
faith.
fun.
Or fun. Eventually, I think it gets more fun the more you do it. Like anything, right?
Like it could be an adventure, It kind of brings me back to early childhood. I think I was in the 4th grade, and I had this thing. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's so me. It's it's so what made me into who I am. But I had this thing. So we were a group of like 10 friends, and back at the day, buildings weren't lit from the inside. That nowadays when you go inside a building, it's like 24/7. There's light everywhere. Buildings were pitch dark. Early 2000s in Israel, you would walk in, it's pitch dark unless you turn the light on, right? And then there's a timer for like a minute or so. Yeah. So my hobby was to take my friends into pitch dark buildings and walk all the way up and all the way down in complete dark, telling scary stories, And now when I think about it, back then it was just something fun that we were doing with the kids. But I remember the thrill of not knowing where I'm going to step, if I'm going to fall down on my ass, if we're going to bump into each other, like seeing all the stories come alive inside that darkness. It was thrilling. It was the sense of adventure, of not knowing what you're going to meet in that dark. And it was funny. We laughed. It was great memories. But I remember that sense of adventure, where my spirit came to life inside that darkness, and growing up and realizing that the darkness is still around us, the circumstances of life, the ever-changing world around us, the uncertainty is everywhere. It's freaking dark right now at some places around the globe. But I decided that if I can't change the world, I can change myself. Gandhi said it, all the great philosophers said it. The change starts with us. So I'm on this path where I'm reviving all the characteristics of that girl that walked in the darkness, because she was heroic. She didn't give a damn, about the monsters and demons, and she was excited to meet them because they were part of the story. They were the dragon that made everything come alive, the story to be more colorful. So this is what I'm trying to embrace right now, the mentality of a true hero, of somebody that embarks on this great adventure of uncertainty, but is equipped with everything they need, because it's not that you start the adventure this way, but you develop throughout it with the understanding that, yes, I am going to meet my fear, the demons and the shadows and the spirits. I am going to walk through the valley of death, but I am going to be okay on the other side. I feel that life in Peru has taught me a lot about it as well. But before we get into that, let's talk.
Hero's journey. The hero's journey.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into that. But what helped me the most when I started this journey was breathwork. I'm not gonna get into the details of how I got into breathwork, but my first time trying Soma blew my mind. Like, I always knew that we have something divine within us, that our brain is capable of so much more than what society told us. But my first time trying breathwork, I was like, okay, this is it. This is so easy. This is so accessible. Everybody could do it everywhere. Let's go. You know? And so started the path of healing of many, many years. But I want to talk about your experience with breathwork. What led you into it, and why is it such a great modality and such a easy one that can help people break out of fear?
Yeah, beautiful. I love Soma too, somatic breathwork. It's my favorite.
It's the best.
Well, I don't have a favorite. I don't like saying that, but it's really good, really powerful for releasing fear.
Yeah.
So similarly to you, I started working with the breath. Actually, when I started after my breakdown, and I was started to face my fears, it really helped me. I started with Wim Hof, actually, Wim Hof style, just on my own every morning, just like 10 to 15 minutes. I actually started because I did not like cold weather, and part of Wim Hof breathing is it helps to actually like regulate your nervous system and help you with the cold. Helps with the cold, right? Yeah. With cold plunging. And now I teach cold plunging, and I love getting in the cold water.
The cold.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so somatic breath work to release fear. Very powerful modality. The same as you, I started getting deeper into breath work and found somatic breath work on my healing journey to release, to continue to release, to work on my anxieties, my feelings in a holistic, healthy, natural way, rather than take a pill for it. And I found with somatic, I just had so much inside of me. So much of everything, so much rage, so much...
Yes.
sadness,
all the things we store.
So much, so I started to release these emotions with somatic breathwork, going to sessions. And luckily, where I lived in Austin, Texas at that time, somatic breathwork, the company, I highly recommend them. They had just moved to Austin from Arizona, and they were leading classes themselves, like Stephen Jaggers and Fisher and Nadim, like the founders of that company. So I was really getting like the real deal, intense taste, and I was like, wow, this is amazing, you know?
So cool.
Like doing somatic breathwork on rooftops in Austin, Texas, with like hundreds of people, and seeing the city skyline. Like, it was really cool. It was like, it made the healing journey like, oh, this can also be really cool and fun. And a lot of, like, everyone loves it. Everyone's doing it, and everyone can do breath work. And I'm releasing so much.
Yes.
And after I'm releasing all this during the breath work, I'm finding this spot inside of me that has never changed and will never change. This divinity, this peace, this bliss, beyond joy, beyond any emotion, just equanimity with everything. And I'm like, oh, I know this. Like, feels so familiar, you know?
Familiar. Love that you use that word, because for me, breath work, and I explain it when I treat people as well. It's like coming back home, you know, to yourself, to what's familiar. It's like getting back to your house that you haven't seen for a while, and it's cluttered, you know, and you have spider webs everywhere, and you're like, shit, there's a lot to clean, there's a lot to release and get out of here. But you get this sense of divine awareness of your power to clean it out, to put some order back into your life. And it is followed by a sense of grace and bliss for the opportunity, you know, the gratitude for the opportunity to be able to be inside that mess and to transform it, to change it, you know. So it is like you're able to recreate your sacred temple within yourself, you know, where everything becomes clear and beautiful again. Yeah,
I love that. Yes, it's such a good opportunity for that. And also to understand, like, that is always inside of me, this thing that never changes, even though I still have so much more to release and to do and to heal. Like, just once I found that, and I just was like, okay, I want to uncover that. So I kept going. And then I just fell in love with what it was doing for me. So I decided to get trained by those guys in Austin. And since then, I've done a lot of breathwork sessions for people, and I love it. And one thing I've learned from that is, yes, like how much when we're not facing our fear, especially in normal Western society, living that type of life, which is totally good. It's beautiful. I'm so happy people are living that life because we need it. But the world needs it to go around. But anyways, especially those people that feel very comfortable consciously, they're actually holding on to the most fear.
Yeah.
Because, well, first of all, they're not facing it, but when you aren't facing it, it's still in your body, and then it can come out as...
Yeah.
It can manifest as disease, as mental disease, physical disease, as anxieties, depression, all of that. So I had a lot to release, and a lot of people from Western society do. And I've realized now I'm living a life where I have so much more unknown, so much more to be afraid of, but I'm not as afraid as when I was living that 9 to 5, doing that type of life.
Inside of the illusion, basically.
Inside of the illusion.
Yeah.
Because, you learn to, as well as breath work, to live in the moment. Yeah. You know, a lot of the fear, like you said, it's an illusion. It's created by projecting into the future.
Yeah.
By worrying. But when you're in the moment, and the more you're living your adventure, that's easier to be in the moment.
Yeah.
But that's all it is, you know, like, don't create the fear.
I feel like a lot of us, we're incapable to live in the moment, you know. We're like vacant houses inside our minds, because this living in fear, it creates anxiety that is basically the fear of the uncertain from the future that isn't here yet. And it's the experience we draw from bad past, you know, bad experiences. We kind of project them into the future. So we're not living in the moment, and we're missing so much by just, like I said, being vacant houses. You know, that's when our mind takes control and kind of, you know, scatters us on the wind left and right. This is where we kind of lose it when looking at life for what it is. It's all so very confusing, right? But I feel that when you are clear, you know, in your mind, which Soma does so much for you, because it releases all the clutter that prevents you from thinking straight and seeing things for what they are. But when you have that clarity, when you have the understanding of your own divinity, it helps you see fear as well for what it is. You know, like we said before, an ally, something that is just part of the tapestry of life and is there to work with us, to be a protective mechanism of sorts, you know? So I want to kind of take this into what living in Peru taught me. So, you know, I asked myself, why Peru? You know, I came here on a whim. I woke up one day in Costa Rica and I felt like, ugh. And I was like, okay, why am I feeling ugh? Let's look into that feeling, right? Let's not run away from it. Let's see what's up. And my heart was just like beating with Peru, 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 Peru. And I was like, what the hell? Okay. I'm on the way to Guatemala, but okay, I guess I'm booking a ticket to Peru. And I came here and I've spent months here and I look at these mountains and at first it all looked so scary to me. You know, because here in the valley, I felt so small, you know, looking at the mighty sacred Apus. I felt everything that made me human. I started feeling so small and incapable. And I was like, wait a second. This is here to teach me something. So I just switched my focus and I started looking at people around me. How are the locals living? You know, they've been facing these mountains their entire life. And where I was looking at the mountain and seeing all the challenges and hardships, basically the sky, the thing that kind of blocks the sky, you know, blocks from me seeing ahead of me. But then I look at the mamitas here, you know, walking up and down the mountain, carrying loads of potatoes on their backs, you know, and I'm like, wait a second, this woman looks at this mountain and she sees her path home, you know? She sees the way to work. She sees the cold shower she's gonna take at the end of a long day, you know, and I'm here feeling sorry for myself, looking at this mountain, seeing all the challenges in front of me. And I made it my mission that day to kind of switch the paradigm around. I wanna look at mountains and feel that I can conquer them easily. That for me, this mindset would be, they're not scary anymore. You know, I can walk them if I really set my mind into it, if I don't see the challenge in walking this way, you know? So this brought me to the hero's journey. You know, this is what I'm creating right now in the Valley. I'm taking people through the entire arc of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. So there's a lot to learn in that process, but at the end of it, there's this new mindset where mountains never look scary to you again, because you know that maybe slowly, maybe a little challenging, maybe I'm going to bitch and complain a little bit on some paths, but I'm gonna make it. I have what it takes inside me to make it. I have everything I need to break through the life of quiet desperation, to turn my fear into an ally, to walk the path and get exactly where I want to be in life without the illusion of hell that I'm constantly putting myself through.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. No, I don't. Yeah, I would love to say something, about the mountain thing. I think that's amazing, and that's interesting. I don't know if I've ever thought about that since I've been here, but
I mean, these people go up and down to...
I've thought about that,
to put a potato in the ground,
yeah.
you know? And we're like,
it's like
no,
2
I
hours
can't.
down the mountain and up the mountain every day to come sell all their goods and then go back up. And then it's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're so happy.
And they're so happy.
They're so happy and
humbled.
they're so loving and humble and they're in the moment. They're
Precisely.
at peace. You know, they don't have TVs. They don't have all these things. And not that these things are bad, but they are happy without them, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I've really gathered since I've been here, and also how much they live in a community here. I mean, they're just, everyone takes care of everyone, you know?
Yeah.
And they're not blood family, but you go into the cities here and you see the kids running around just without their parents in the middle of the city. and like everyone's just happy watching them.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing for them to worry about. You go on the collectivos and mamita, maybe 80, 90 years old, comes on, and everyone, you know, like, here, sit in my spot, all the men, da 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 da. It's like it's their grandma,
Yeah.
but they might not know each other. It's just part of the community. So it shows me, yes, there's always mountains in life, but because of that, we got to work together. We got to help each other and like understand we're all, life is life, and we might as well go through it together, not alone, you know?
Yeah. It's definitely nicer to walk the mountains with somebody. But this mentality of knowing that you could do it, you know, there's so much on the way. There's pumas. Where I was yesterday, there were pumas.
Really?
Yeah, but just living with it, understanding that it's just part of life and we have everything we need to deal with it. And
there will always be mountains.
Precisely. There's always going to be mountains and difficult paths to go, especially when we're talking about reconnecting to yourself and building the life of your dreams. You know, it's such a big word. Every coach and every shaman and healer uses that, you know, build a life of your dreams. But I feel that we're not talking enough about what it takes. You know, it's a difficult journey.
It takes courage.
Precisely.
And also joy in living in the moment, you know?
Yeah.
Like, just one thing I wanted to say about the mountains, like someone really wise once told me there will always be mountains in life to climb, but I don't have to create my own mountains to climb.
Precisely.
Like just wait for the mountains of life to come. And while I'm waiting, live in the moment, enjoy life. The mountain will come. I don't have to project a mountain.
Love that.
For me to
Not
just
project the
climb
mountain.
just because I feel like I'm not doing enough or because I need something to be anxious about or blah, 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 blah. You know, like just enjoy life, wait for life to bring the obstacle, because that's the right obstacle to face. When I'm projecting, it's not real. I'm wasting my energy climbing a mountain.
So just to sum up everything we've been talking about, you know, what can we tell the people around us listening to us right now? If somebody wants to start transforming fear into a friend so they can embark on a beautiful journey, you know, rediscovering themselves, dealing with their traumas and everything that ails them in life, where should they start?
I think the first step is to surrender. Surrender to whatever you feel. Surrender to your anxieties. Take a look at them. They're not wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. Just maybe ask why. And let yourself feel why. You know, it's not wrong. There's nothing
Nothing
It's
wrong
not a failure.
with me for feeling that.
There's nothing wrong with any of us for feeling anything ever. You know, so I think that's the first step. Feeling whatever you feel, and then coming to terms, like accepting whatever the fear wants to show you, or whatever any of the emotions want to show you, and having the courage to act on it, because then you'll know exactly what you need to do after that.
Yeah. And breathe, fellas. Breathe.
Yes, do a lot of breath work.
Yes. Go back to the very basics.
Get clean. Get a
Yeah.
little clearer. Get some clarity in your life. Yeah.
Breathe into it. I feel like, you know, it's so basic. Everything starts with breath. You know, this is the first thing we do when we arrive into this earth, and going back to it, it's so profound. It's so profound. So, yeah, I feel like if anybody wants to start this journey and start clearing out fear, or at least transforming it into something that is easily managed and dealt with, go back to breath. It helps out so much. I remember my first times breathing. Wow, I had so much rage come out of me. I'm a screamer when I breathe.
Me too.
Wow. So many things are released in this process, and it's just beautiful and so accessible and so easy. So wherever you are, do not fear. You're not alone. There's so many people around you to hold you. The universe itself is holding you. The mountains are here. They're here to be conquered. They're here to be walked. The journey is beautiful. Enjoy it. Enjoy walking in the dark. Turn it into an adventure.
Enjoy the hike.
Enjoy the hike. Back into the most sacred of places. Back into yourself. Yeah? And from that, your life shall flourish, my friend. Marc, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your own journey. It's been a beautiful conversation. I've been waiting for it. Thank you for holding the space. Do you have anything else you want to add? Maybe tell us about your program. What are you currently working on?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. And thanks for having me, Caroline. I really appreciate it.
For sure.
Yeah, so currently, I'm offering a lot of somatic breathwork online, as always. But other than that, lately I'm working a lot with shadow work, with uncovering the unconscious side of ourselves, working with our darkness to become whole.
Yes.
So we're not just all light and love, we're also everything.
The integration of all parts of our ego.
All parts. We're everything, right? So I find there's a lot of gifts. There's a lot of gems in the deepest and darkest caves of ourselves.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm working with that and currently working with clients and whoever would like to dive into their shadow.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. So yeah, hop on Marc's things and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much again, Marc.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Bye.